joining us here on the program. That's a night. Is that an NY hat?
It's a New York Knights hat. You ever seen? It's Roy Hobbs. You ever seen
Wow,
the
taking me
Natural?
back. Taking me back. Just
Yeah.
don't knock over my lights, buddy. Don't hit the lights out with your great takes that you got coming up. When do you leave?
Tomorrow morning.
Okay, because I was wondering. I was like, oh, there's morning skate at 2. Like, I wonder if Ed's up there already. But you leave tomorrow morning. You'll be at both games, Chicago and Detroit.
Chicago and Detroit. Yes, sir.
Nice, man. How are you feeling after Sunday? I called you because I was concerned about you. The Ravens losing to the Bills. What a great game, man. What an incredible effort by Baltimore. And, it sucks to see Mark Andrews dropping the pass, but a really great story, too, at Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills and Bills Mafia really supporting, Mark Andrews and raising, I think it was like $30,000 or $60,000 for T1D for type 1 diabetes. And it takes away a little bit of the sting, but tough because Baltimore had such a great year, man.
No, they did. And, it kind of comes down to all the basics that we always talk about is like, turnovers and penalties, stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great game. I thought that, obviously they had a chance till the end. And, it's tough because I think a lot of Ravens fans in Baltimore, they're waiting to get over the hump, and you thought that this might be the year just because they were so well built and the defense was playing well. And, obviously you had that two-headed monster in the backfield, but it's there's next year, right? Actually, it sucks. It's not, it sucks, but like, honestly, like, I think, you kind of like the Buffalo story though still, and it's,
you lost to a good team. You lost to a great quarterback. Yeah. So it's not like you lost to a clearly inferior team. Like, it was a battle. It certainly was a battle.
For sure.
Before we talk Lightning, and of course, I want to ask you about the Hall of Fame for baseball and some WWE, but I want to ask you this. I brought this up at the start of the show. What team would you classify as a team that has a fan base with a love-hate relationship? Because I have it with this team right here over my shoulder in Manchester United, where they could beat Arsenal, they could beat Liverpool, but then they lose to like the worst teams ever. And it just drives me nuts. And I have a love-hate relationship. I'll get up at 7:30 in the morning and then they'll lose or they'll draw 0-0, 0-0, and I'll be pissed.
Yeah.
What team, when you think love-hate relationship, what do you think?
In
Dallas?
General, like across all sports?
Yeah. Because other teams,
I
put Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys have become that. Yeah. I mean, it's, their fan. And I actually, honestly, like before the Ravens came to town, I grew up a Cowboys fan. And this was during the glory days, because keep in mind, when I was a kid, I had to watch the Mayflower trucks leave Baltimore when the Colts left town. Man. So you didn't have a football team, and you didn't embrace the Redskins because they were like, they were the Redskins, and you have that Baltimore DC rivalry. So, I kind of embraced the Cowboys, and as a kid, I used to go with my Aikman jersey on and go to RFK Stadium and root for them. And those are the glory days though, right? I mean, the Super Bowl teams, the triplets and everything like that. But, but I do know still like how much, like, man, it is love-hate. Like, it's just, it's almost that, why you can't have nice things thing. But with the Cowboys it's different because they go out there, they spend the money, they try to rework it, and it just falls on their face every time, whether it's like, the Tony Romo botched, snap to
Dez Bryant,
Dez Bryant, everything. It's just like, it's almost a thing where it's like, well, what's it going to be next? And, to be honest, the Ravens were a little bit like that until they won, recently. Well, I guess that Super Bowl in New Orleans against the 49ers, but you couldn't beat Brady in the playoffs. The Lee Evans drop in the end zone, little stuff like that. And like, I know all teams kind of have that and all fan bases kind of have that, but I do think with the Cowboys now, it's become that kind of thing. But I mean, going back to Buffalo, like, I don't feel like there's any like love, like it's all love. You know what
That's
I mean?
exactly that's why I said love-hate relationship, because they get mad, but they're diehard. Like I'm talking about team, and that's why Cowboys, they were my number one team. I got the Toronto Maple Leafs on there, right? Because every single year, the Rangers, New York Rangers are on there. I got the Mets, I got the Rays, because people, they love the Rays because it's us against the world, but then they hate how much they don't spend. The Knicks, the 76ers, Penn State, even the Florida Gators. Like you love the Gators, but you hate Billy Napier. Like it's just
right.
Those teams, I think. Oh, I got a question here. And if you have questions for Ed and Encina about the Lightning or anything, feel free to put them there at the bottom of the screen. This is a good one. Jay, ask Ed what he did after the Mark Andrews drop.
Oh my God. Who's asking this question?
Do you see it? Can you see it on the screen?
Yes, I do see it. I don't remember it. I blacked
You don't
out.
Remember?
I was like, I think I got up from my couch, and I told you I was sitting on the couch, and I was just like, oh no. And then I like banged my head up against like the wall of my, like, it wasn't like a hard bang. It was just
you did one of those?
Yeah. Like it wasn't like a violent bang or anything. It was just like
head on?
Was it head like leaning up against the,
oh my God,
against the hallway wall there. So, the person who's asking that question, who people know it's my wife, she wanted me to redo it so she could have some cool video to post on Instagram or on social or something like that. But yeah, we that was just in the moment. But
are you okay? Are you in concussion?
It wasn't. I didn't hit my head. I was just like It was.
Was it a forceful? Like was it?
No, it wasn't forceful.
It
was more of like a lean in, like yeah.
Jeez. Oh man, there's nothing like your wife getting on you. I love that kind of stuff. Thank you, Shannon. We love you. Yeah, he was like, yeah, I love her. Thanks, Shannon. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Like losses like that, I had a video a while ago when I'm a big Knicks fan, when they had the worst record in the league and they didn't get the number one pick the year that Zion Williamson was coming out. And I was on the bed with like a blanket and I was like despondent. I was so upset. I was like, this sucks. I hate my life. This is terrible. And then, I guess it kind of worked out.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to that game and like, that last drive, you're like, okay, they got a chance. And then they just drive it down the field and you're like, given everything that happened to them, all the turnovers and everything, like you're like, man, maybe they can pull it out. So you go like from there and then up,
roller coaster,
like everything, and then you're like, Jesus. But
not good, man. All right, let's talk a little Lightning hockey here. Kind of a weird couple of games north of the border. I mean, you played the Leafs, with the firepower, and then the Canadians. You have the lead, you blow it. What do you make of the team's struggles in the division and what we've seen the last two games from them?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. What are they, 3-8 no against the division right now? So, obviously you got to be better, right? And especially right now with some of these teams coming on, I mean, whether it's Montreal, whether it's Ottawa, Detroit's been pretty hot. So, you've got to make up some of these points against these teams. Like I think we said last week is, they played so few games than everyone else. And now is the time in January where they've got to really kind of make up. You have the games in hand. Now you got to make them up. So I think it's pretty disappointing that they didn't get anything out of those. And, especially the Montreal game, I mean, Montreal plays a certain kind of hockey that, can be really frustrating, especially when they play from behind, I mean, like, and they're just a grind hustle team that, finds little places to shoot the puck and they're able to do it. But you look at that game, you're up 2-0, and even when they give up the lead, like that third period, they pretty much dominated it. I think that on 5-on-5 they only allowed like 3 high danger scoring chances all game. So I don't think it was Vasi's best game.
Right.
The first goal was one that just kind of like, I don't even see the hole where that slid through there. But then the game-winning goal was one where we see this a lot sometimes with them, especially at this point of the year, is where they overload to one side in coverage, and then you leave a guy wide open on the other side of the ice. And that's what happened. I mean, like, should Vasi get that goal, that shot? I mean, probably like 8 times out of 10, he probably at least gets a stick on it or deflects it or something. But that's kind of Lightning hockey every once in a while that we see. Is like they follow the puck, right, instead of following the man. And especially when they feel like they're on their toes a little bit. And we've seen over the course of the season where they've had that kind of clutch to them in the third period. And, that was one of those games where they clearly, even though they kind of dictated the pace of that third period, that they really didn't, they didn't figure out a way, and that's what they're going to have to do, over the course of the next, few weeks. Even this back-to-back coming up, even though, Chicago's not a conference team, it's important. It's important to get points, because right now, I was just writing this, is, no matter what happens tonight on an idle day for them, they're going to get bumped out of that third place spot, because Ottawa and Boston play each other and they're both a point behind. So, now you're kind of in that area of 4 or 5 teams that are all within 3 points of each other. And, you've got to make up these points. And the stuff on the road, like Cooper's been talking about it all the time, is like starting on time. I just don't get it. You know what I mean? I don't get like how, these slow starts equate on the road. It's just one of these things where, obviously the Montreal game, they started great and then they couldn't finish. So, but we always talk about this time of year, is like that 60 minutes of hockey, and that's what they're searching for. And it hasn't been easy. And, this is an important stretch for them for sure.
You got that right, buddy. What do you think of Max Crozier being in the lineup the last couple of games, and how the defense has kind of looked overall since Moser went down?
Yeah, I like. We've talked about. I like Crozier a lot. I think he's one of those guys that plays a really quiet game, which is good when you're a defenseman. Like you're not making mistakes. He did have one play, I think, in the Toronto game where he was kind of caught up, in the play and got kind of caught out of position. But I think for the most part, he's one of those guys that's, like I said last week, he's really trustworthy. And there's. The only reason he wasn't getting called up earlier in the year was because he was hurt, during before Christmas and stuff. So he's going to be one of these guys who's, I think we're going to see a lot of. And again, the big question is how. Well, first off, the immediate question is, how's Eric Chernak, right? How is he going to be able to play over this weekend series? But also, how much longer they keep going with the 6D, because I do think, one thing that they've done when they've gotten out into these ruts is go to 11-7. And that's really helped, because one, you give a little bit of break to the defenseman core. They're not taking these super loaded minutes, and especially when the guy, comes out of the game after the first shift, like Chernak did a few nights ago. And also, you kind of force this, amongst the forwards, that your top guys are playing more minutes with different guys. And maybe that gets some of the bottom 6 guys going when you put, Nikita Kucherov with, the third or fourth, third line or something like that, and that's really actually helped them a lot, even earlier in the season when they've gotten kind of in a rut. Now, having said that, Nikita Kucherov's playing a ton of minutes right now.
Yeah, he is a lot.
And he's playing both power play units. He's almost double shifting every once in a while between the Hagel line and the Cirelli line and the point line. So I don't know how much longer he can skate that long, but over the long haul, you wonder, how much maybe you do have to pull him back, because also too, as good as Nikita Kucherov is, when he's frustrated and he shows that frustration on the ice, I do think that kind of carries over amongst the team too. I think those are some questions. I know you're asking about Crozier, but when you look at how they might play out the lineup wise, some questions kind of that I'm looking at going forward.
I didn't get I forgot to ask Eric this question yesterday, but I asked Gabby when she was on the other day. Has there ever been another player that you covered in sports like Nikita Kucherov? Because I've been here 10 years now, and I've covered all the teams here locally, and there's just we know it. Like, we know, and I said it when we were on there, I think Monday or Tuesday by myself, just what it's like to cover Nikita Kucherov, because we know that as much as he loves hockey, he hates doing media.
Yeah.
And it's not personal. It's not like because he dislikes any of us. He just doesn't like that aspect of it. And I know, like, even when it's like, all right, 600th assist, like we start talking like, all right, Nikita's after the game. And I think it's important too, Ed, because again, I don't bring it up to paint you in a corner. I didn't try to do that with Gabby or Eric or myself. I brought it up because I think it's interesting the way that we have to deal with it, in a way of like, we're not trying to make him look bad either. He really doesn't like it. But I also don't like some of the comments where like, I don't like that they pester him and they bother him, because that couldn't be farther from the truth.
Right.
Of like, we don't ask for Nikita Kucherov 7 days a week. We know like pretty much the only time he gets asked for when there's a big, accomplishment or a big milestone. Have you ever covered another athlete like that? Because it just seems, for me, through this decade, it's just so unique.
Yeah, okay, I gotta be careful here, but
no, I know, but I think I understand, because like, we're not, this isn't complaining, and I'm not trying to paint you in a corner, but I think it's important for us to be able to talk about, we do take precaution in being understanding that he doesn't like doing this. So, and I don't want people to look at the Tampa Bay media, because, and again, I don't always give a shit what other people say, Ed, but I also don't like seeing on social media when I post things about Nikita Kucherov, like, why don't you guys just leave him alone? Because I think that's bad. It's a bad look on you and Eric and Gabby and myself and everybody else that covers the team. I think it's important to just acknowledge the fact that, like, we know he doesn't like doing it, and we are very respectful of his time and respectful of his space. But it is like, it's not easy. Like, it's something that it is a little bit of a challenge.
All right, so I'm gonna go on a soapbox a little bit here, but there you go. To answer your question, no. There's never, and I've covered college football, I've covered Major League Baseball, I've covered the NFL, I've covered the NHL, obviously, covered a little bit of NBA, and I've never encountered any athlete that's like Nikita Kucherov. And part of it is that he doesn't like doing it. Part of it is that he doesn't see that it's a part of what his responsibility is in terms of helping the Tampa Bay Lightning win games. And that's the way he sees it. Now, again, I've always been under, and I think anyone I've covered and anyone I've worked with I hope they would agree, is that I'm very respectful of every athlete's space, knowing that, they have a job to do. Yes, they have media obligations, but at the end of the day, like, probably talking to me is not their favorite part of the day, even if I have a great relationship with the guy. And I have a lot of good relationships with guys in that room. So, like you said, we haven't asked for Nikita very often. And the thing that's a little bit frustrating for me is that, like, some of these short pressers that he's had have kind of become like jokes. It's like, oh, it's him being him. And it's kind of funny, but like, so you look at it from the aspect of, the coverage of the team, you'll get for aspect of like the team itself, the league. This guy's one of your best players, right? And the fact that he doesn't talk much, and the fact that he, will blow off a request to talk, it only hurts him. I'm for sure. I mean, I can guarantee you that the way people view Nikita Kucherov hurt him in, the
MVP voting
for the Hart,
1,000%, because as being the only guy there in Toronto last year, yes,
what happened in the All-Star game, for sure. I voted for him. I see him every day. I know how good he is on the ice. I know how important he is in the room. And if the Hart Trophy is about the most valuable player to his team, there's no doubt in my mind that Nikita Kucherov deserves my vote. Having said, I don't see Nathan McKinnon every day. I don't see Connor McDavid every day. But at the end of the day, that hurts his chances. It hurts the Lightning's opportunity to really take full advantage of how you can really, show how great this guy is. And it hurts the league from the perspective you really can't promote one of your best players, one of your best international players. And, but for me, I guess the thing for me that I struggle from, and this is me coming from, being with the team every day and doing this for a long time of covering a lot of different things, is, and different sports are different ways. Like, being in the Rays locker room, baseball, the access to it is remarkable. You're in there, you're entrenched, you walk to a guy, you can, shoot it with him for, talking about nothing about baseball for a good 20 minutes, and, you have that access. The NFL is different, right? You have, very stationed kind of media access and stuff like that. Hockey is the dynamic of hockey and the structure of it should be kind of in between there, but with certain guys, it's not. So, But having said that, I do think that, like, my frustrating part is, there's sometimes when I get told is, well, you don't have to talk to the guy to write stories about him, right? And that's true to an extent. Like, and we are lucky in the fact that everyone in that room loves Nikita Kucherov, to the fact that they talk glowingly about him and tell you great stories about him.
Right.
But if you can't really get in the mind of one of the best minds in hockey, it's a disservice to everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a disservice to the game. It's a disservice to, the people who cover the teams. It's a disservice to the fans, and I just wish he would open up a little bit more on stuff like that, because the best part of Nikita Kucherov is the way he thinks the game.
Right.
And if you can't really tap into that, I'm not asking him to, like, tell us all the secrets, and I know we've asked questions sometimes where we ask him about what he's thinking. He's like, I'm not going to tell you. Right.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But, like, he is one of the greats, and, he is one of the greats in that room. And I just wish that we were able to kind of tap into him a little bit more and just get to know him a little bit better. And obviously I joined the beat at a time where it was right around COVID, and, our access was completely, like, taken away because of COVID. Right. And it's kind of slowly come back. And I think that's also another aspect of it, is that athletes in general, whether it's, baseball opened up a little bit quicker than most, but hockey was probably one of the later ones to open up in terms of regaining that access that we had pre-COVID. Is, I think that sometimes athletes have used that to, that they didn't have to talk to us now as almost a crux that, right. Okay, well, over that span, we didn't really have to interact, but, and like I said, this is taking nothing away from Nikita Kucherov as a player, as a person, anything like that. I just wish that we were really able to it would be better for everyone, mm-hmm. and my covering the team, to be able to talk to him more and him be a little bit more open about, the way he thinks the game, the way he sees the game, him being able to talk about some of his teammates, stuff like that. And especially, and this is an important part, is that he wears an A on his jersey now. And, I don't know if I haven't encountered an athlete like him in general, but also haven't encountered an athlete who has that kind of leadership, put on him in the room, who doesn't talk. Like, right. we do have a great group of emerging leaders in that room. And I talk about them all the time: Braden Hagel, Nick Paul, Anthony Cirelli. Those guys are great. And one day those guys will regularly wear letters too. But, as in covering this team, we did lose a great voice in Steven Stamkos. Yeah. And Victor Hedman is good. And they have getting Ryan McDonough back is great. But there are some nights when you go into that room and you're like, who do I talk to? Because you've talked to Victor Hedman a bunch. You've talked to Ryan McDonough a bunch. You've talked to Hagel a bunch, and, it would be nice to be able to go up to 86 and have him cooperate a little bit more on what, on talking about the team.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And I think it's well said. And you put it in a really good, respectful way of, like, we're not bashing the guy. And it'd be one thing if, like, somebody wrote a scathing article about him and he's like, screw you guys, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Then he'd be like, cause effect, right? Like, you're like, all right, well, that's the way it goes. But
and that's the thing. Like if he was in Toronto or in New York or Boston or anything like that,
hate it.
Like our media market is so much different. I'll be the first one to say that. Is it? But having said that, like, like, I don't think anyone's ripped him to a point that he shouldn't talk or anything like that. And like I think the other day when we requested him, there was the 600th 600 assist, right? And so if you can't get him to talk on a night like that, after they win, he has this great, tremendous highlight reel goal that was is going to be played over again for months, and he hits this thing, and all you can get him to really say is cool about it.
Yeah,
like, man, that's, I don't know. I could say a lot more, but it's frustrating. That's all I can say.
You did a good job, man. Yeah. And I think you're the consummate professional for sure, being able to deal with it the way you do. Real quick, because we're up against it, I want to hear about the Baseball Hall of Fame. You covered baseball for so long. I had 4 guys. The only guy that I didn't have that didn't get selected was Omar Vizquel. That was my 4th. You don't still vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame, do you?
I do.
Oh, you do? Nice. What was you didn't make it public, did you?
I did. So
did you? You're the guy that didn't vote for each row, you son of a gun.
Usually the Times runs it. They didn't run it, but this year, but the the guys who do the tracker, Ryan Thibodeau and those guys who do the Hall of Fame tracker, they asked me for it. So and they're on Blue Sky. So it's on Blue Sky somewhere on there. I think I retweeted through my account, but basically I voted for the 3 guys who got in. To me, like, Wagner last year, he kept on trending.
Right.
Ichiro, no doubt. CC to me wasn't a doubt. I also voted for Andrew Jones. I think that, he definitely deserves to be in there, when you combined his all-around play. And who else I vote for? I went back and forth on Rollins and Utley, but I voted for both of them.
Yeah.
And the other 7th one was
Beltran.
I did not vote for Beltran.
Ay, Dios mío, no Beltran.
I don't feel good about the trash can thing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But
feel good about it. All right, we'll let everybody know. We'll check it up on Blue Sky.
It's on Blue Sky. Eddie in the Yard at Blue Sky, if you want to check it out.
Go check them out. What else you got going on right now for TampaBay.com? Everybody with the Tampa Bay Times. We had Mark Topkin on yesterday. We know that there's a game. No, they got morning practice today, but games back-to-back Friday and Saturday. Let us know what they can read there on Tampa Bay Times, TampaBay.com.
Yes, I mean, we talked about a little bit, but kind of looking at where they kind of sit right now. It's actually kind of a familiar place where they were last January in terms of really a lot of teams surging at them in the playoff standings, and they're really gonna have to kind of have a sense of urgency, and they did last year. I think in the second half of the year, I think they were 26-12-2 or something like that. So they had one of the best records in the league. They're gonna have to do something like that, pretty. I think over the course of this stretch, which looks pretty ominous, but especially because I think out of 36 games, I think 15 of them are against Atlantic Division teams. So you got a few against Buffalo there, but Buffalo, even though Buffalo's been bad, they're not. There's no way a gimme. So some games against Ottawa, some games against Montreal. I think they only have one more against Toronto. I think, but when we look at the way they've played against the Atlantic Division, like we said, they've got to get better. And just kind of taking a look at a little bit of the numbers game there of what they kind of face moving forward as we go into this back-to-back and kind of rounding out this really crazy month that they've had, which is 16 games in 29 days, including 10 on the road, 4 road back-to-back. So the schedule hasn't been friendly to them. They haven't used it as an excuse, but obviously they've got to start winning games on the road, and they've just got to start piling up points. So kind of look at a little bit into that. And then obviously, we've got this back-to-back, so I'll be there with datelines on from Chicago and Detroit. So
that's going to be great. Shannon just texted me. Felix Hernandez was the other guy.
Felix. Oh, that's right. King Felix.
King
that's
Felix.
Right.
What a beast.
Oh my God. That guy was awesome. I love covering him too. I mean, like,
his numbers weren't, all time, like when you look at like the numbers, I don't think they tell the kind of career that he had.
Right.
But he was just dominant and he had a lot of swag.
And sometimes like that too, you look at like, how much a guy means to like a team too. And
he was the Mariners. Yep.
And he was like that team for a good amount of time.
That's a great.
Thanks, Shannon. Appreciate it.
You go, Shannon. Shannon's all-star performer today on the program. Make sure you check out Ed and the entire crew, Tampa Bay Times. Go subscribe today, man. We support local here on the Jay Recher podcast, and everybody. We've had pretty much everybody except Stroud. We got to get Rick's the last guy. We've had Joey. Well, we got to get Romano too. I want to get Romano too. We got
Stroud's elusive. He's elusive.
He is elusive. He's just. I got to get him on. He said he would, so I got to get him on. But we've had Joey Knight and Mark Topkin and Ed Encina, who joins us every Thursday here at 1:30. And again, I really wanted to, for everybody that's been asking about the Nikita Kucherov thing and the stash, our guy, Ed, you're the consummate professional in what you do. Both you and Gabby are, and I've always wondered what it's like being around number 86 and his attitude towards the press in general. Yes, and that's the reason why, for all those watching, that's the reason why I wanted to bring that up to the guy that covers the team every day and also the Lightning team reporter. And it's a fragile thing. Like these two people that I've asked these questions to, they're my friends, and I don't want to put them in a position where they feel cornered or they have to say a certain thing. But I also think there's also another side of this where the fans and also the people that watch hockey need to understand, like, we're not the bad guys in this situation. We're not saying Nikita Kucherov is a bad guy in this situation. We're just trying to do our jobs. And it is fun, and it is funny to kind of chuckle about when he has these one word answers and number one bullshit and stuff like that. But we also are trying to do our jobs, and I don't think anybody in the Tampa Bay area, Eric Erlinson and everybody else that we've had on our show included, like, nobody's trying to paint Cooch into a corner. Nobody's trying to make him look bad. We're just trying to do our jobs. And I just want to make sure that we articulate that and stand up for ourselves too, to be like, hey, we're doing it in the right way. Nobody's ever said anything from the Lightning like, you guys need to do this, you need to do that. So any of that misconception that we ever try to bully him is also like well off base too. So Ed, Eric, Gabby, the entire crew, consummate professionals, and esteemed colleagues that I very privileged to call friends. So Ed, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. Safe travels up to the Midwest area up there. And we'll talk to you again next week, brother. Safe travels.
Anytime, Jay. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, man.
You got it. And thanks Shannon too. She's the all-star today. She's the Hall of Famer. She should get your other vote. Thanks, buddy.
She's not on the ballot yet. But
yeah, she will be. She will be. Nobody's gonna kick Shannon Encina off the ballot, man. She put her on there for 12 years. We're getting her on there. But yeah, again.